This is my 2013 Triumph Scrambler, and this is all the crap that I've taken off. I really liked how it was stock, but I'm a tinkerer, so I have tinkered. We'll run front to back, kind of top to bottom here. Here up front, I've got the little retro turn signals from British Customs, as well as the turn signal relocation kit. That was a really nice little piece to put on. I've got a video of putting that on. So we move up, and one little CRG mirror, no more antennas sticking up here. These are some brown Biltwell hand grips. So we come on down, and you'll notice no oxygen sensors coming out of the pipes, no air injection, and we move on down to this clever little mod. The stock pipes weigh something like 20 pounds. These are tailpipes for a Volkswagen Beetle, like the old classic air-cooled Beetle. We have a shop here in Kansas City that sells those for $13 a piece, so saved a lot of money on a custom exhaust for this by being a little resourceful, measuring a few things. Here you see the little retro blinkers again to match the back, and the total lack of fender, and the cute little under seat light. That's the British Customs kit as well. I've got a video of the installation of that, and I'll link to that in this video. So then the tires are quite a bit more street oriented than what come on the Scrambler. These are the Metzeler Lasertecs. They're, you know, the retro street inspired tread design, I guess. I went to these because I wasn't sure that I liked the dual sportness of the Scrambler after a couple years. And when I did that, I also threw on some standard Bonneville shocks, which lowered the rear an inch. To maintain the handling, I should have dropped the front end roughly the same amount. But I really kind of liked how it slowed all the handling up front down a little bit. So over here on the left side, there isn't much to really look at, but in the Airbox, I have taken out the Snorkel and the Baffle, which are in that shot of parts on the ground, and the cover that holds the air filter in, I clearanced out so the hole is the same size as the actual air filter to let a little more air in. As you can see, these are cold pipes, and there's some significant bluing there from running so lean and from the air injection. Some of that was remedied by the removal of the air injection components, and then I have done a remap that I'll show you here in just a minute. So in this bag is the air injection solenoid and valve, all the hoses, the tubes that go into the heads, and the oxygen sensors. I did use the kit from British Customs. That was fairly expensive for what it really is, but it was much easier to just track them all down, to get them in one place as opposed to track them down. I also like that all of the replacement bolts and bolts that cover it, they all have a really nice finish, and they're all Allen head, so they kind of match everything else on the bike. So now I've got more air coming in, more air going out. Not a huge amount. I'm not going for performance here, but whatever. I'll take what I can get. But I also remove the air injection and the oxygen sensor. So to do that, you have to remap the ECU. There's a great program. It's like $10 on Android, or it's free on a PC, but the Android one was kind of neat to play with. Basically, I took the Triumph off-road map tune for when you add their off-road pipes. I slid over into the F-trim table, and I added 5% just across the board. So I highlighted the whole thing, pushed it up to 5, and applied it. So far, that's been running really good. One thing that I did have a problem with, and I'd had a problem with it the whole time I owned the bike, was at idle there'd be an occasional miss, just kind of a thump 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 thump. It was really strange, and I noticed this last time after reflashing it, while I was waiting for the throttle position sensor to reset, or the adaptations and whatnot. I noticed that this guy was reading at like 240, 250, and this guy was reading 320. I didn't think too much of it at the time. I was running around chasing kids. But upon thinking over it, I was like, wait a minute. That means each cylinder is seeing a whole lot, like quite a bit different pressure on the map sensor for that cylinder. So I did some looking, and then there's a tiny little screw that sits in between the throttle bodies. It's super easy to just get in there with one of those little stubby screwdrivers and turn that until they were spot on. Both are just sitting at 280 at idle. If I rev it up, they are right there with each other. Two things that you'll need if you're going to do Android, you have to buy one of these, what they call an on-the-go cable, which I've been in IT for 20 years. Never heard it called that, but that's what it is. And you have to buy a USB to OBD2 adapter. Apparently there's some problems with some of these being not the right chip, which is FTDI, or just cheap and crappy. I don't remember where I bought this, but I think I lucked out because this one has worked flawlessly on a PC and on the Android tablet. So some of the benefit of doing all this has been, it's been pretty cheap. I've kind of had an eye to that. I've got a lot of hobbies, and wasting a lot of money on the motorcycle is not high on my priority list. But it's taken a lot of weight off the bike. Like I said, the pipes, mufflers, whatever, are probably 20 some odd pounds. I haven't weighed them, but they're pretty significant. And the Volkswagen tailpipes are less than a pound together. The fender here is a good, 5-6 pounds. The mirrors, maybe a pound between them all. It's probably a couple pounds in the Airbox pieces and the air injection and oxygen sensor pieces. So not a huge amount of weight savings, but it's definitely noticeable. The bike feels a lot more lively, a lot more nimble for what it is. I treat this like a vintage bike, not like a modern sports bike, because it is not even the same. So one thing to notice here is, it's hard to see in video, but these tailpipes have little baffles in them. It's not huge. It still makes a good racket, but it's not obnoxious all the time. At idle and at part throttle, you hear it, but man, it is not, just pounding, thumping against your head. So for a while, I was running this, just a straight through reducer. That is loud, especially with the pipes up, pretty close to your head. That thing rattles around inside your helmet. So for a cheap mod, I definitely recommend those Volkswagen pipes over going with something like this. However, this did look really good because, so we come over here, you'll see right here the heat shield kind of kicks up. That's to match the angle of the original mufflers. So these little guys fit completely underneath there, where with the Beetle tailpipes looks a little bit weird. So one of my longer term projects is probably to trim this heat shield to match that one so they look the same.